If it cannot break the egg's shell, a chick will die without being born.
We are the chick. The world is our egg.
If we don't crack the world's shell, we will die without being born.
Smash the world's shell. For the revolution of the world. Greetings, friends and foes, and welcome along to episode 42 of Keep Your Friends Close and Your Animes Closer, with me, as always, your anime student council president, Joel.
And me, as always, your student council Nanami, Robert.
And me, your student council. You go with Jerry? Curtis.
Jury, right? I thought you said Jerry. I was like,
Student council Jerry.
Wait, he's also Jerry. Yes, just in the corner the whole time.
In the way that they did with Suwabuki, just introducing him in
he was there the whole time.
Yeah.
We finished Revolutionary Girl Utena.
Yeah.
So this episode we're going to be talking about episodes 37, 38, and 39 of Revolutionary Girl Utena. But really quickly, before we get into that, I have an apology to make. Last week, during Fake Views, I said that there was an anime called Bo 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 Bo.
What?
And there's not. There's not. What? That would be ridiculous because the way that it is actually pronounced is Bo 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 Bo.
Yeah, you are an idiot.
Yeah, I just idiot mistake.
Yeah.
Of course, there wouldn't be that many bows in it. Ugh.
No.
So, I mean, that aside, I think it's time that we move into Revolutionary Girl Utena Abridged.
Duel 37. Title.
The one who brings world revolution.
Utena stares out of the window while Anthe sleeps. In case it's as if you weren't listening to the last one, Utena's just caught Anthe shagging her brother. She's thinking about the prince and how he once said that the ring would lead her to him. She takes off the ring for the first time and drops it on the ground. Akio asks if something's wrong with her. She seems like she maybe hasn't slept well. She says, sorta. There's sorta something on my mind, but I can't really talk to anyone about it. We've all got our secrets, haven't we? And he's like, yep, we sure do.
What's Utena's secret?
That she knows that they're banging?
Yeah.
That was what it was. It was like an edged statement.
Like she's protecting their secret.
No, it's more like I know your secret, but I don't feel comfortable talking to you about it.
Yeah.
We all have. So
it's more of an expression, but she doesn't. I don't think that she has any secrets herself to hide.
No,
sorry,
no, it's all good. No,
good. But the fact that we're already debating about the intention of the episode one line in, it doesn't bode well for how the rest of these 3 episodes go.
We're gonna try and move through them.
Okay.
Besides the fact that she just caught him sleeping with his sister the night before, Utena asks him on a date. And he's like, sure, I'll go on a date with you. Cut to Toga cycling with Seonji on the back, and they're talking about having received their final letters from End of the World. They're speculating on whether the power of Dios will remain sealed or whether Utena will indeed revolutionize the world. Akio and Utena are coming back from their date, and he pulls up and then he asks, why aren't you wearing the ring anymore? And she says, I'm starting to think it doesn't suit me. And he very creepily says, well, that boy's uniform really suits you.
He doesn't quite say it like that. He doesn't, not quite so husky.
he just leans right in. And she's like, oh, okay. And then he forces himself on her, and then she's like, I wonder if Himemi is sleeping yet. And then he pulls back. She looks up at the stars, and she says, why haven't you mentioned the stars tonight? And he goes, you know what? To tell you the truth, I don't have any interest in the stars. Himemi welcomes Utena home, and she's like, oh shit, you're still awake. How are you going? And then they discuss Akio. Himemi says that Utena should go to the castle to meet her prince there, and Utena's not so sure. Toga, Sanji, and Akio are making a nude calendar, while they are discussing Utena finally choosing the real Akio over her fantasy prince, and all that entails. Himemi sees Utena holding a letter from End of the World, and she says, "I wish we could all stay like this forever." And upon saying that, Utena tears the letter into 100 pieces and throws it in the air. Juri and Miki are talking about nothing in particular while they're playing badminton, and then Nanami interrupts them to say that Utena's being dense and is being tricked, and can't you even see what's happening? And then Miki and Juri jokingly hit on Utena, and Juri says, "Can I get a photograph of you to put in my locket?" Then there's a shadow play about being a movie star and achieving the status of celebrity, and perhaps nepotism, because there's a daddy who can get his daughter into the movies, or maybe it's like a sugar daddy or a
I think
sex daddy.
He's like, "Call me daddy."
Right, yeah. Akio is driving with Himemiya, and she is in pain, and he says, "It's not me, it's the world that's causing you this pain." And then he drives under a street lamp, and we see the silhouette of Anthe turn into the one of the witch with all the swords sticking out of her. Utena and Himemiya talking over tea and biscuits in the kitchen about the future and future plans. Himemiya says, "Are you aware of this particular type of poison? And also, how are you liking those cookies? I made them myself." And Utena says, "What a coincidence, because I also poisoned your tea." And then the record of the music in the background skips, and they just continue talking as though normal, and as though neither of them just alluded to poisoning the other. And then the same shot pans across the same room, but this time it's empty, but they're still there having the same conversation. And then they just appear in the kitchen again. I'm not sure what the hell we're meant to be getting from this, but we'll move on. They promise that they will be together in 10 years, still laughing and drinking tea and being friends. Then there's a hard cut to Himemiya standing on the edge of a building, asking Utena for forgiveness before she throws herself off. Utena catches her just in time and says, "You can't kill yourself. We've got plans to be together in 10 years.
You're just going to run away?"
You're just going to run away. Yeah. Running away is what they keep saying, rather than kill yourself.
This is still, I think, technically a kid's show.
Yeah.
Technically, so you can't say kill yourself.
We're seeing her throwing herself off of a building.
Well, she's running away very quickly.
Running away very quickly downwards from the top of the building.
Running.
She's running away. Utena catches her. Himemiya is waiting on the steps for her outside the school with the sellotaped together letter. And she says, "There's still time to turn back." And then the letter flies off towards the dueling arena. Duel 38, title.
The end of the world.
Utena enters the arena, and then the big egg materializes on an angle with Dios sitting on top of it / the side of it. Akio walks down some red-carpeted stairs, dressed all fancy-pants prince-like. And she says, "So you're End of the World. You were the cause of everything." And he says, "Yes, you figured that out a long time ago, and yet you've still come here to be with me tonight." Utena asks, just straight up, the question that we've all been waiting for. What is your end goal? She says, "Why have you been doing all these duels? Why the school? Why the manipulations?" And then he answers her in an equally straight-up way, explaining everything in an understandable and satisfactory way. Or, instead, he asks her about what she's been dreaming about lately, and then he talks about how he only ever dreams about the castle, and the fact that the castle is where the prince and the princess will live for all eternity. And then Himemiya disappears, and then reappears behind him on the steps, and he says, "Don't worry, she's fine, but she's also in pain." And then he compliments Utena on having a noble heart still, and then he draws her sword. He says that they will live together happily ever after, forever, while Himemiya stays on as the Rose Bride forever. Then there's a flashback as Utena is preventing Himemiya's suicide, and she pulls her back inside, and then they each sort of break down, talking to each other about feeling guilty for betraying the other one. Himemiya for sweeping Utena up in it all, using her naivete against her, and Utena for never realising the pain that Himemiya's been in.
She also says that she's been protecting Himemiya to boost her own ego rather than to actually help, and that if she actually had cared, she would have noticed that Himemiya was in pain.
Which is what we've seen of Utena. She seems to be dense, but because she's sort of self-involved.
Yeah.
Rather than stupid. Himemiya tells Utena to just forget everything and leave the school, and Utena says, "I can't do that." Present day, Utena grabs her sword from Akio, and she brandishes it, saying that "I will free Himemiya from you." And he says, "You can't free Himemiya because reasons. And also the prince and the castle are only illusions." He reveals the truth to her by opening the blinds, and they stand not in the arena, but in the planetarium. He says that she chose a castle in the sky rather than aspiring to reach the chairman's residence. She's chosen illusion over reality or something. And she says, "Oh, I hate this room because it's basically where you rape your sister." And he says...
In so many words.
Yeah, and then he says, well, is what I do so bad? Isn't it just as bad for you to have allowed yourself to be raped by me when you knew I have a fiancé? And she's like, and he's kind of got a point. She
didn't explicitly say no.
Yeah, but she is 14, so it's still rape.
Yeah.
He accuses...
Dun dun. Jury's out.
He accuses Utena of never trying to understand Himemiya. You've been too self-obsessed and you're too busy thinking of yourself, so you're just as bad as me. He reminds her how he saved her way back when he was a prince, and he's still the same person, as is Himemiya, and as is Utena. As he says this, Utena is shown to be in the regressive Ada from Act 2, and she's thinking about how she's still just a girl like she was way back when she was in the coffin. Utena says that, I'm going to have to fight you, and he says something about Himemiya being a witch, and she likes it because she can't be happy except like this. And by now Himemiya is now lying on the couch, sprouting swords the way the witch was. He grabs out of Himemiya the sword of Dios, and he turns to fight. The student council meet. The fight, named Revolution, has begun. They fight in the planetarium while the dull-eyed Himemiya is watching. He warns Utena that this is real combat, not just play fighting anymore. He says that she can't understand the value of this room because she's just a child. And then the desks are summoned from Act 2. And then the cars are summoned from Act 3. Then he claims that Himemiya is the rose bride of her own free will. The stone prince sitting on the side of the egg shatters, and then the castle starts to shatter, and the arena starts to shatter, and he starts to look scared. Himemiya staggers forwards off of the couch. Her eyes are widening. Utena gets the upper hand, and he starts to stumble. He's beginning to sweat. He's beginning to lose this fight. Himemiya's eyes widen even more. As a last-ditch effort, he grabs Himemiya and he throws her at Utena to break up the fight, but Utena grabs her and saves her and stands between them, protecting her. Himemiya leans forward and holds Utena tightly from behind. And with that added comfort, Utena gets stabbed in the back, literally.
No! God!
Himemiya drives her sword through her back.
No!
She asks,
damn it.
Why?
I think I did do an audible gasp.
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah.
And it cuts to a black screen, and so I can see my own reflection of what of what it looked like. And just stand there, a wide mouth agape. Yeah, Himemiya stabs her in the back and drops her to the ground. Duel 39 title.
Someday we will shine together.
And the last episode. Anthe says, you remind me of Dios when I loved him, but you can't be my prince because you're a girl. And then she takes the sword from her. Toga tells the other student council that don't take your rings off yet, don't give up hope. Utena's still in the ring, and so the fight isn't over yet, even though she's got a hole in her.
Also, Nanami says, I already took my ring off. I just was done with this. Yeah. Toga says, don't give up hope. And Nanami goes, shit, I already did. And then Juri starts to tell them a story about how when she was younger, a young boy jumped into the river to save her sister who was drowning. Her sister was saved, but the boy drowned. And now she can't remember his name. Nanami asks what I was thinking. Why did you tell us that story? Back to the fight, Himemiya hesitates to give Akio the sword, and then he asks, do you hate what I've become now? And then he says how he always carries her pain and suffering within him. She says, knowing everything of the world, you still chose this path. And he responds, knowing everything of you, I love you. And then she sort of wipes away his tears and hands over the sword. He approaches the Rose Gate, which materializes at the edge of the arena. And yeah, they're back in their own arena now, not the planetarium. There's a gate holding the power of Dios behind it, and it's all covered in rosy thorns and vines. As he's walking across the bridge towards this gate, there's a low underworldly moan beginning, like thousands of voices all moaning. Himemiya thanks Utena for her friendship, and then disappears. 1,000,000 swords come up from the darkness beneath, and he says that these are the swords shining with human hatred, stirred by the sight of this prince's sword, which I believe is still Utena's sword, because I tried to track which one was. It is, it's Utena's sword.
The swords fly at him, but they get deflected, and they instead attack Himemiya. He turns as she gets pierced by 1,000,000 swords, and says that the Rose Bride takes the swords in place of the prince, as is her duty. He says that she chose this life for herself, and then he tries to cut open the door with the sword, but it doesn't budge. The prince, actual Prince Dios guy from the castle, just starts to speak to Utena in what seems like some sort of a delirious, I'm dying sort of a daze. He says that you're just a girl, so you could never possibly wield the power that's beyond that door. But if you could, imagine what you could do. You could probably save Himemia. Cut to him breaking the sword against the door. Akio gives up, basically, because the sword's not powerful enough to cut through the rose gate. And as he turns away, Utena staggers towards him. He says, I'm surprised you're still up.
He does make a quick note about how he'll just have to try and start the cycle again.
Yeah, get a different sword, I guess. More powerful. He says, well, I can't open it, so you can't open it either. But she pushes past him anyway, so he's like, well, do your worst. And he walks away. He lays down with his other half, Dios, and talks about the merits of persistence and how he used to have that sort of drive that he sees in Utena. Dios gets up and leaves, and Akio starts to drink. Utena is sweating trying to open this door, and then a drip of sweat falls, and just like when she opens the arena doors, the rose seal ring jumps to life and it opens the door. The swords stop coming, and the gate shifts. A coffin appears where the gate was, and Utena begins to open it. Akio runs forward. No!
He's panicking at this point.
The swords reverse their position and actually come out of Anthe. She peers into the coffin and she sees Himemia naked and in the fetal position. She says, it's so good to meet you, finally. She asks for her hand to save her. Give me a hand, give me a hand. But Himemia starts to beg her to leave. You need to get out of here, you need to get out of here. The arena around her starts to collapse, and then Himemia slowly reaches out her hand, but it's too late. She slips from her fingers down into the clouds below. Utena cries at not being the prince that Himemia needed, and then the swords eviscerate her and the arena. The school life continues. Kids around the school are gossiping. One of them happens to mention Utena, and the rest of them haven't heard of her.
Or can vaguely remember.
Vaguely remember who she is. You remember she was dressing in boys' uniforms? Didn't she get kicked out for something? No,
I heard that she was with the chairman. Didn't she get in trouble with him and then she got expelled?
Yeah, something like that.
No, she was hospitalized last I heard.
For some reason, nobody can remember Utena. Miki begins to train Suabuki, and Wakaba becomes the new Utena, with staring out of a window as her friend almost tips her out in the way that we saw in the first episode. Akio is on his computer and he's talking about how Utena seems to have made no difference. Just as I predicted, she didn't revolutionize the world. I've started again, by the way. I've put the rules in place for the new Rose Crest. Blah blah blah. Anthe says, "I quit." Basically, she takes off her glasses, puts it on the desk, and then she turns around and leaves. She says, "Utena isn't gone. She's merely vanished from your world." He says, "Wait, what do you mean? Wait, come back!" But she's gone. Anthe packs up her bags and she leaves the school grounds, off to search for Utena. Credits.
And then there's just the last frame at the end of the credits is the picture that they all took together, and it zooms in on their hands, and Anthe and Utena are holding hands.
Yay.
But bittersweet. Well, guys, I've got a big suitcase and I'm here to unpack it.
Oh. First thoughts. We do this every time, so first thoughts.
Yes, first thoughts.
Primary thoughts. So you're still
good show.
Shoujo boys.
I'm a shoujo boy.
Yeah, I'm a shoujo boy.
My initial thoughts are fuck this show.
Really?
Yeah. I hated it. I hated the way they ended it, and I knew it was coming as well. I knew that it was just going to be as dense and full of metaphor and unpackable to me as anything else. And I just hated it.
Sit back and relax and listen to my TED Talk.
You need to redeem this for me, Joel.
Okay, I've got it.
It's like, it reminded me of, a few episodes ago, a few weeks ago, you, Curtis, mentioned how, like, if you went to spend an evening enjoying, like, orchestral music, and then, like, in the last 20 minutes there was, like, a speaker problem and you got loads of feedback and it was just horrible and jarring, and you'd go away from that thinking, that was a horrible night.
Yeah.
Even though it was only, like, the last 20. It's like this with this. I've enjoyed watching this, but then the way that they ended it with answering your questions and just, like, confusing me and stuff, I just hated it. It's tainted it. I'm like, fuck this show.
I've had some time to think about it. I know that you've only recently finished the episodes, so you're still hot, you're still fresh. I've had a couple days to think about it, make some notes. I I don't know. They're not very well organized, but we'll see how far we get into it. I'm pretty confident that I know what's happening, at the very least on a symbolic level, because some of the literal things that are happening start to fall apart, especially at the end when, even after they've revealed that it's a planetarium, it comes back to being the arena, and then the Rose Gate appears and he's attacking it, and then there's a million swords. We can't. I don't want to dwell on that. I just want to say that I think that as far as a literal story goes, not the strongest. As far as a metaphorical story goes, you got a friend in me. Woody, Toy Story, 1999. So, right off the bat, I have a couple answers. So, I think that the coffin that Anthe is in, and the supposed castle that Dios is trapped in, last week I speculated that maybe it was not literal, and that it was more, and we took, instead of it being a good or evil version of themselves, that it was their innocence. I am certain that it is representations of their childhood. So here's my thinking. When Utena's parents die before the show starts, they bring out 3 coffins. 2 of them are for her parents, who are literally dead as disco. And Utena just climbs into the 3rd coffin and resigns herself to death. I think that is when her... and I speculated that was when her innocence dies. I think that that's when her childhood died. So I know that you can talk about how, typically you're a kid from this age to this age, and that you're adolescent from this age to this age, but it can vary. I think that is when she started to transition into her adolescence, because it was such a defining moment. That is her putting her childhood to death.
Like Batman.
Because Batman definitely did that too.
Became a grown-up.
No. She's not a grown-up.
Okay.
I'm going to keep going with it. So, once you transition from... and this also is leans into Toga and Saionji talking to each other, and Saionji saying, we're both trapped in our own coffins, and then it kind of switching to them being childhood versions of themselves while they're talking to each other. So the school is frozen in time. Everybody is not aging, and also in a state of arrested development where they don't progress. So what is happening is they are all stuck in their adolescence. Their childhood has died, and they need to try and become an adult. Akio, who is the end of the world, has told the key players, at the very least, that the only way to get to the end of the world and to achieve your adulthood, he doesn't say adulthood, but that's what he's telling them, is like they don't know how to progress, right? Yeah. But to get out of adolescence is to go into your adulthood. To get out of this, you need to follow these steps. Here's the ritual you need to perform to grow up. And only upon achieving self-reflection and self-determination is Utena able to leave the school. So Utena's arc is her parents die, she sees that a prince, and she wants to become a prince. She's holding on to those ideals, and that is what is keeping her trapped at the school. The idea that she can become a prince who can just save anybody and make everything better, you know what I mean? Like, wash away the worries of the world. It's not until... she's still persistent, but it's not until she realizes that she needs to stop being self-obsessed and care about the people who she's trying to save instead of using it to bolster her own ego, that she's able to prove to herself, to Anthe, that she is a prince that Anthe can believe in. And that's when, so I'm a little bit all over the place. I'm sorry, but hopefully you're following. This is making sense? Okay, okay, cool. So, do a little bit of flashback and a little bit of a rewind. That's Utena's arc. I will conclude it all.
Just before you move on from Utena's arc, it does make sense that the last we see of Utena is when she is crying at just failing to save Himemiya, like literally save her, and she says, I guess I couldn't be the prince that you needed me to be, so then she realises that that's not something... I
have a little bit of a theory on that. I do think she actually saved Himemiya, just not in the way that we think.
Right, yeah.
But we'll come back to it. So, we saw this flashback where Akio is all wounded and cut up, and Anthe is, oh no, don't go out there, you'll die, because there are a bunch of villagers saying, oh, my daughter needs to become a princess, oh, you need to help my daughter become a princess. And Anthe goes out and says, you can't have him, he's mine, I've trapped him, and then the swords pierce her. What I think is happening, because we've already talked about how Dios has explicitly said, Dios is dead, the person who he was is no longer alive, I am now Akio, or I am the adult version of Dios. I think that is his childhood dying, because it's not far enough in the past for it to be like a medieval thing, and there isn't enough evidence to suggest that they're centurions or centaurs or elves. So what I think is happening is Dios is about to transition into adolescence at some point in the past. His version of a call to adolescence is puberty, essentially. He's becoming interested in girls, and they're calling him away from his sister, who is reliant on him. We never see them have parents. I think it's mentioned that Anthe's parents have died as well. So she's saying, don't leave me to chase your adolescence. You need to stay here and look after me and take on some responsibility. So she goes out and she says, no, I'm going to keep him in this trapped state of arrested development, essentially locking away his childhood while he jumps ahead to adulthood, which is why we see him as an adult and not the teenager that everybody else is, and also why he's at the school.
Yeah. That's what Nanami tried to do almost to Toga, right? Yeah. She confiscated his phone, got really involved in his life and the girls that he was seeing to try to she almost became that.
Yeah. I think the thing with the difference between Nanami and Toga is that Toga and Nanami are both already in their adolescence. It's kind of too late. Yeah. What I'm saying is that Akio has missed a step. He's become a man-child, for lack of a better word, which is literally what he is. He's using everybody like toys.
He's selfish.
He's selfish, yeah. He has all of these ideals of a child, but he's got an adult's body with adult responsibilities. He hasn't made because I know that does make sense. You can go from being some people never transition out of adolescence, right? You meet 30-something-year-old people who are just no, but you have a full-time job. You're working towards a committed relationship, but Akio is manipulating people and just actively trying to recapture his childhood, which is my main point.
Right. He's living in a fantasy.
He's living in a fantasy. He's chasing the fantasy of his childhood. He's chasing the ideals that he should have let go of, even now, even after he should have let them go.
And that's why you can never open the Gate of Dios or whatever they're calling it.
Exactly. We can't become a child again.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. It's literally impossible for you to achieve. Yeah, because
each time he fails, he goes, "Well, I'll just try harder the next time."
Well, not even I'll try harder the next time. Well, I'll just do it all again.
The same way. Constantly repeating.
This a revolution.
Yeah.
He's completing revolutions.
Right. Yeah.
Mechanical revolutions. Got a big shit-eating grin on my face.
I think they can hear it.
Yeah. Now we have Anthe.
Cool.
So Anthe, through no fault of her own, relies on Akio when they're children, and so she bars him off from becoming an adolescent. The million swords shining with the hatred of humanity, I guess. I think it's twofold, and I'm not as confident with these, but the two things I think it could be are society finding her repulsive for not letting her brother, holding her brother back, essentially. But I think it's more likely that the swords are self-inflicted and coming from Akio. I think that she blames herself. She, at one point in these episodes, she says, "I was nothing but a living doll until you showed me that I didn't have to be like that." She says this to Utena.
Yeah.
I think that she feels incredibly guilty for holding her brother back, and Akio rubs it in. So last episode we talked about how Akio said, "Why must you continue to torment me?" He is blaming her for his position, even though it is very clearly him putting her in this position and keeping her from progressing into adulthood, abusing her in more ways than one. So he keeps her trapped more than she is keeping him trapped. Do you know what I mean? He could very easily learn to move on, but he's like, no, not going to do it. So, the climax of the show is Akio is trying to create the circumstances and environment to have children, adolescents, with the same characteristics, personality, ideals that he had when he was younger, so that he can take them, literally take their heart, and try and achieve what he feels like he used to be and what he feels like he should be, which is childish, right? He's taking Utena's sword and trying to break down that door, trying to get at his childhood, trying to get at those ideals. Right. But at the same time saying, it's funny how he doesn't see, Utena stands up and he's like, I used to be that persistent, which is what he's trying to do again, but he can't do it.
Yeah.
That's why, so I think we can very safely assume that the Rose Door isn't real. It's just another illusion, whether it actually be real or not. We're going to move past that. It's representing him trying to get through this ideal through brute force.
Yeah.
Through just manipulation and brute force. Yeah. But when Utena tries to open it, it becomes Anthe's coffin. And the reason that Anthe allows her coffin to be opened, because we have this whole thing of this whole tug and pull of Akio and Anthe trying to get to Utena in various ways. When even after Anthe has backstabbed Utena literally, because she doesn't believe that Utena can actually do it. She doesn't believe that she can get her out of this awful situation. But when even after she's been backstabbed, she still gets up, pushes past Akio, gets to the metaphorical coffin that she's lying in, that she's able to release her from the coffin. I know that she tumbles from the sky, but she's still, as we see at the end of the series, no longer under Akio's control and able to progress into her adulthood. She's even wearing adult clothes as she leaves the school.
Yeah.
She's no longer wearing the uniform. She's taken off her glasses because, as we all know, when you get older, your eyesight gets better. And she's able to move forward. Meanwhile,
Utena planted that seed.
Exactly. Yeah. And Utena has left the school. I do a couple other really quick notes that I wasn't able to tie into that brain dump. So I think that the school, tying into the coffin being a metaphor for the death of your childhood, I think that the school is a metaphor for purgatory, limbo, or maybe heaven, because it's a garden school, if that makes sense. There's a lot of angelic kind of imagery around the school, and, gardens and Christianity, it's a thing that goes hand in hand. So that ties into Akio being the devil, and I think that with it being a purgatory, they die, they go to this school purgatory, and then they graduate into their afterlife, the school adulthood life, the life that comes after you being at school. Right.
So wait, that's a completely different theory.
It's just me trying to tie bits and pieces of the story together that I'm trying to tell, with the coffins specifically. So, and just really quickly, Akio is very quick to blame, as Robbo pointed out, anybody except himself for the position that he's in. He's crying because I'm just a child, or I'm just, nobody understands what I have to go through.
Yeah.
But really, it's self-inflicted, and if he were to spend some time self-reflecting, maybe coming to terms with some shit, he wouldn't be in the awful position that he's in, or putting people in the awful positions that he puts them in. That's the end of my theory. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Nice.
Does that help? Does that clear it up a little bit? Not satisfying?
No. I don't know. I need time to reflect on this show. It's such a dense show that I'll need several weeks. I'll keep coming back to it when I've got new things to add in the Weeb review or something. I'll be like, hey, I've thought about this, or I've watched one YouTuber's take on it, or I'll think on it.
There's a lot of stuff that I couldn't get to. Like, you were mentioning things as we were talking, and I've already forgotten them because of my brain. But this isn't this is me trying to do an overarching what the metaphorical story is supposed to be. But I mean, I think you could go through these episodes with a fine-tooth comb and still find so much.
That's kind of what I'm disliking about it. That's one of the reasons I've said that I like this show, because there's so much you could watch it again and see little things like Anthe going in late for the rock paper scissors and stuff, just little things like that. But now I'm starting to think is it just that the writers were like, just let them say that, because the audience will always be able to put meaning to it that we didn't put to it.
think
so
so.
many contradictory metaphors. Like for example, in episode, which one is it? It's episode 38. Akio says within the space of about 2 or 3 minutes, he says, "I'm the prince," and he says, "There never was a prince," and then he says, "The prince died when she died," which are all mutually exclusive statements. He can't be the prince if the prince died. He can't be the prince if there never was a prince, and the prince can't have died if there never was a prince. So that it's like, which metaphor are you using, and stick with it, because I don't know what the prince is anymore. I'm left thinking, all right, what was the prince? Was it a metaphor? Was there a literal prince, and we're in like we're in the post fantasy land?
I think it's a lot more of an allegorical story than a literal story. And that's the only way that you can look at it.
I just don't know what allegories they're saying. I don't know what metaphors they're using. I don't know what symbolism is important. I don't know what they're employing that is actually important to the moral. Like if it's a story with a moral that can be applied to, if you remove all the fantasy elements, the swords and the arenas and everything, there's a moral through it, obviously. And it's so hard to find that moral for me because I don't know what it's actually saying. I don't know which parts are literal, which parts were metaphorical. I don't know. It's too dense. I was hoping for something to be wrapped up a little more understandable. I still don't know what the relationship is between any of the characters. I don't know who Akio is and who Anthe is and who Utena is. I don't know what they mean to each other and what's actually been achieved through any of this. I don't know. I'm left with the feelings I had after finishing season 6 of Lost.
It's not that bad. It's not as bad as Lost. What do you even need?
Jesus.
That's a deep cut.
I definitely get where you're coming from, Rob. For me, most of it is totally like not accessible. I don't have the intelligence for the show almost. I would have to rewatch it several times over, I think, to like go, okay, well, this is a bunch of bullshit. But you're explaining it, Joel. That does help me understand
the message.
Yeah, like a lot of those large the overall story. So like I can see where both of you are coming from because it's like, Joel, you pointed out these main, like the adolescence, growing up essentially, fairy tales and whatnot being told that when you're a kid, and kind of growing up believing those, and then finding out you gotta change and adapt to survive, right? They're in there for sure, but also
Well, no, I think after hearing your explanation of it, I think you're right in the money. Like I think that would be what they're probably going for, what they were intending all along, because it does make a lot of sense. All the adolescence and things makes sense, but it's just the fact that it has to be explained by someone who's brainy enough to see it. whereas I'm watching it feeling like a dumbass because I don't understand what they're going for. In the same way that you're saying, like, I don't have the smarts to. You don't have the smarts to understand what they're going for with it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super. Yeah, I think the thing is, it's like literal and sort of symbolic, and I tend to watch things that are literal.
Yeah.
It's not like what did we watch last season, Violet Evergarden, where there's no metaphorical story happening. It's just it's a girl with robot arms.
Yeah.
She wants to learn to type good and also feel things.
And email us if you're just like screaming at us right now, going, you missed the metaphor in Violet Evergarden. Oh my god! I can't believe that you didn't.
No, don't at me. I don't like the show.
Well, I can't remember the example. I was thinking about it today, and I can't remember. But it was like, I watch things and I go, yeah, kill that person for murdering your parents. Like you just literally killed them, and then you've won. You put that in the past, but I still found the show enjoyable. I still liked it overall.
The visual presentation, the aesthetic,
the visual presentation, and it's not like none of those messages got through to me. I still felt a lot of it. I could feel like Utena's sort of she did grow to me. She did. She believed she was trying to be something that she wasn't, which was a prince. And even she didn't fail in it because she did save Anthe, but she also another win for her was to become herself.
Yeah.
You know, to own that she doesn't have to be the prince. She can be Utena, whatever that means. And so I did get some of these things, but I would have to watch it several times over.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like I would get it more, like I did with The Matrix. But the difference is, The Matrix is a movie that's, 2 hours long, and you can watch it.
Right,
This is 39 episodes. I cannot, and probably will not, ever watch this all the way through
Watch
again.
the movie.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking forward to watching the movie, because I'm hoping it'll be easier to comprehend what the story is. Because they will have gone, all right, we need to compress the message into a 2 hour thing.
Yeah.
Or an hour.
Oh, there's a manga as well, Curtis. I might read that.
Yeah, for
Should
sure.
talk about that. I have no idea what the differences are.
That'd be interesting to find out the differences between the manga.
I have. This is like the first time I've written a lot of notes ever.
Nice.
So, just a couple other really quick things. I thought it was a nice touch that Nanami took the ring off, but they all kept the rings on.
Yeah.
That way, when the cycle starts again, they don't even realize that anything has happened, and Nanami goes back to not even remembering that she ever had a ring.
Oh wow.
That was
Touch. Good touch.
What did you think of Nanami being the one who's like getting what's happening? Like when she snatches the badminton shuttlecock and she goes, "Don't you realize what's happening? You're being tricked." And she's like trying to help Utena, and Utena's just ignoring it and dismissing her. And Nanami's getting frustrated at being like, she's actually trying to help Utena out and saying, "This is you're being dense, you're being tricked. This is what's going on." And she's basically just telling her what's going on, and Utena's refusing to admit it.
I think that Akio at one point says, "You knew for a while now that I'm the end of the world," and it's never kind of addressed again. I think that Utena has also bought into the fact that there's just a thing that you have to do to be an adult, and that even if this guy is, the villain of the story, he's figured it out, and if I just do the things, then I'll become an adult. Do you know what I mean? Right. She's bought into it, so she's lying, and because we know that she's lying to herself a little bit, but she says at the end, "You know that I can't walk away at this point," because she's so close to what she thinks is achieving her ideals. But then, we've gone through the climax.
I wondered if that was literal as well. Like there was double meanings to that. When she says you should just, Anthe says you should just forget everything and leave the school, and she says, I can't do that. And I thought maybe it was literal, like we can't leave the school. None of us can leave.
Right.
I think that it is. I think it's the whole thing of they think that there's a ritual that they have to do before they can become an adult and leave the school. And when she says that she can't leave, it does mean I can't, but it also means I can't turn away from this. Not when I'm so close to achieving my childhood dream.
I get the feeling that Utena didn't understand her feelings for Anthe.
Yes.
For her, it was about ego. It was about fulfilling this role of like the prince. She wasn't able to give that up yet.
Yeah.
That idea of being the prince. And that's what I saw. Even to the right, to the last minute, she was still trying to be that prince.
But then when she opens the coffin, she's begging Anthe to come out, and she says, "Don't you realize the only time I was ever happy was when I was with you?"
Yeah, it was like self-realization.
Yeah. I am in love with another girl.
She does not say that.
No, she does. No.
This is not a chalk one up for your prediction.
No. Listen to this. The writers of the show were specifically told that they were not allowed to have Utena and Anthe kissing. Why would they need to be told that unless Utena was at least bi? It doesn't matter. Her sexuality is not important. All that's important is that she's in love with Anthe.
I know, but the argument that I have against her having romantic feelings for Anthe
is homosexuality.
Is a sin. That God hates fags. That's my argument against. No, it's that they have the badminton scene, which I still don't understand, with Juri, and Juri says something about, "You love Anthe, don't you?" And she says, "Well, not in the same way you love Shiori." My feelings are purely, well, not that your feelings aren't pure, but mine are.
You've hit the nail on the head. You've sealed objection, your own coffin.
Oh, no.
I think that Utena. Okay, so this is still, we have to try and think about it where it's set. It's set in 1997 Japan, right? Homosexuality was not okay. Big no. Even more so than in the West, and even today, it's not that cool to be gay. So I think Utena is a self-repressed gay trying to lie to herself. That's also why she gives into Akio's sexual advances, is because she's like, oh, this guy's really interested in me, and I kind of like how he looks.
Yeah.
So I'll just see where this goes. But she never seems chuffed when they're together. She says, oh, can we go on a date? But she's not happy like she is when she's hanging out with Anthe.
Yeah. I'm going to say something, and then you can say I'm wrong.
Listen, there are no wrong answers.
So, to me, like, Akio represented this idea that of like traditional values in a way. Like, okay, like ignore Anthe for now. Like, you're going to grow up and be a bride. Utena's going to grow up to be a bride, to be in love with a man, to the traditional fairy tale. He projected a castle. He
told her that they would go up into the castle and they would love each other forever and they would live happily ever after.
Yeah.
And she had lied to herself, saying that's what she kind of wanted because that's what society has been telling her.
Yeah, so the whole show was her like conflicted with that and discovering like she doesn't necessarily need to follow that. You know? Yeah.
I'm not saying she's gay, but she definitely loves Anthe.
Yeah. I just don't know if it's just platonic.
No. Definitely not.
I'm with you that if it was made today, then it would probably be more obvious that if she does love her in a non-platonic way, then it would be made clearer if it was made today.
I think that's where I can agree with where you're coming from. Is so much is left to interpretation that it's almost like surreal or like abstract art in a way. It's like up to the viewer to sort of walk away with their own.
And I've never liked that kind of art.
Yeah,
which is probably why I don't like it, because it feels lazy to me. It feels like the writer's going, well, what do you think it means?
Yeah. Instead
of like coming down one way or another and saying, this is what I intended it to be. Instead of having an idea for themselves, which they probably did. They probably had an idea of what it meant. But anytime that an artist goes, well, what do you think it means? That just pisses me off. I'm like, no, tell me what you thought it meant when you were making it.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with you 90% of the time. This was a hard watch.
Yeah.
For this reason, but I still enjoyed my time with it.
Sorry.
No.
I'll just say no. I really liked the ending. I liked Utena's realization that she didn't have to play out this narrative that she'd made herself to be like the prince. I have to save Anthe to. That's who I am. I'm going to try with all my effort to do that. I like that through I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Self-determination.
Yeah, I like that. I like that in storytelling, is that when you know, like the hero or whatever thinks that they want this thing, they want to be the prince and save the day and get everything, but what you really wanted was to maybe understand yourself a bit better. And so it was like that journey of her, you know, she didn't necessarily become the prince and save Anthe. I thought that was really good storytelling to me. That felt like a really good ending, like a really solid ending. Yeah.
I would love to know if you guys disagree with me on the following, but I think that the last episode really destroyed a lot of the progressive work that they'd done on gender stereotypes. Because Utena continually was told in that last episode, first by Anthe stabbing her in the back and saying, you couldn't be my prince because you're a girl. And then by Akio repeatedly saying stuff about, you look better in a dress, you should be my bride, we should just be a prince and a princess happy together. Why are you wanting to be your own person and have your own thoughts and ideals. He keeps saying that you're only a child, so you couldn't possibly understand my ideals. And then Utena herself says something about not being a prince, and I guess I couldn't be a prince. She says, I forget the line, but it was. She definitely says something about not being good enough, and she attributes it to being a girl. And then somebody says something like, and then Dios, Dios, when she's lying there dying, Dios says, there's all the power in the world behind that door, but you couldn't possibly wield it because you're a girl. It just feels like this is a horrible way to end this message of this show for little girls.
It ends it because she totally rejects it. She, even after getting stabbed in the back, being told that she can't do it because she's a girl, being told that she looks better in a dress instead of the clothes that she's more comfortable in because she's a girl, the show ends with her going, fuck that noise, and she gets up and she pushes past it in spite of the fact that everybody is telling her that she should just lay the fuck down and die.
Well, I would say that the people that narrative is coming from Akio, the antagonist, the bad guy. It's this message that is being pushed, and I would say that's a message that is pushed on like a bunch of girls even nowadays. And so and then she rejects it. She
stands the fuck up, and she pushes past him, and she gets the girl she wants to fuck.
But again, it's not clear. It's not literal, and it's like
I don't think that it undid any of the progressive work that they did because that narrative was coming from the villain.
Yeah, fair enough, I suppose. I did wonder if Dios was anything to do with how Dios is God in a lot of languages, a lot of romantic languages. Mios Dios, my God, and Dios is like he's trying to get to the power of Dios all the time, and it's like, is Akio wanting the power of God? Is he like? Is it anything to do with God? Do you think? Is there a religious message to this show?
I had a very cursory look at all the names. My God, that is its own episode. We could go through
like
that.
The origins of where they all came from.
Yeah, like Anthe is 2 Greco-Roman goddesses that tie into her themes. Like one of them is the goddess of gardens, and one of them is the goddess of I think fertility. I could be wrong. Utena in Japanese has 2 meanings, and that is the base layers of flower petals and also a tower. And as soon as I got past those 2, I was like, I need to stop because this is going to be too much to go through. But every single character has, even the fucking snails from like whatever the fuck episode in season 1 when Anthe's got a parcel full of snails and she names 3 of them. All of those snails have names that tie into like a larger narrative.
Right.
So
was it Greek mythology?
A lot of it is Greek mythology.
Yeah.
But not all of it.
Is there also, I was wondering, shoujo themes present? Do we have to have a knowledge of shoujo to maybe some of the stuff is just
that's the thing, right? Whenever you watch your first genre piece, there's always going to be stuff that you miss, right? Like imagine that you'd never seen a sci-fi before, and then you watch Star Wars. You're just like, what the fuck is happening? Like,
there's no it's a strange entrance into that world.
This was a strange entrance because a lot of the time shoujos aren't this, I guess, fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's just, I'm a cute girl and I'm a cute boy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a cute girl boy because they fuse.
In a magical transformation scene.
Yeah.
And change clothes.
I'm being a little bit facetious, but you know.
Yeah, no. It's I like different stories, and to me that was a different story.
I've never seen a show quite like this.
Yeah.
Okay, last 2 things to wrap this talk of Utena up forever. What was your favourite part of these 3 episodes? I can go first. I really liked the final scene of the whole thing of Utena pulling herself up, launching herself across to the platform that has the rose door. Akio continuing to taunt her pushing past him and forcing the coffin open. It was just good. Had me going real good.
Not sure.
Still too bitter.
Yeah, I did like that when Anthe leaves the school, She takes off her glasses, and that's like obviously there's some symbolism to her glasses.
Well, she doesn't have to hide who she is
she
anymore.
doesn't have to hide who she is, so she's leaving the school and she doesn't need him. But I like that Choo Choo goes with her, and he takes off his little earring and his little like shirt or whatever, and he's like puts everything. He puts his stuff on the table as well, and then leaves with her.
And then when Auntie doesn't say goodbye to anybody, Choo Choo has to say goodbye to a frog.
Yeah,
And the frog is very sad that Choo Choo's leaving.
Choo Choo's really crying at the fact that he has to leave the school. I liked the just the visuals of her actually leaving the school grounds as well, like just like focused on her feet, and you can see the border of the school, and she picks up the bag and just steps over it.
That like helps sort of solidify the idea that, you know, like you're
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Literally. That was a literal moment in the show. I enjoyed some different scenes in these 3 episodes. One was when Akio's in the car driving Anthe, and I think Anthe's in pain, and he's just got this anger, and it was just well animated.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. What else? It's the scenes with where Utena gets stabbed in the back. Didn't see that coming. And,
No.
Yeah, same.
that really hit me.
Yeah.
And I think you just mentioned before as well the moment when Anthe says, "You could never be my prince because you're a girl." Like that hurt. You know, that's really not nice. But again, I think that was a message through from Akio.
Yeah,
through
like
Anthe.
she's developed the Stockholm syndrome where she's been told
totally in
that it's
control.
her
She's
fault.
A witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a living doll. You need to serve me. This is your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
Today, if we had to give this show a score out of -10 to 10, 0 being completely not even worth giving a breath, 10 being a masterpiece, -10 being a fucking awful The Room level masterpiece, what would we give this show?
7.
That's still worth your time. That's a positive
because I
review.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it until the last 2 episodes.
That's higher than I thought you were going to give it a 6.
No, 7. I enjoyed it. There is a lot of symbolism. It gets a lot of discussion. It's definitely worth watching for the discussion that it provokes. And I know that if I watched it again through, I would understand a lot more. Knowing how it ends, you pick up on things on the way through.
I imagine that you would find a lot of inconsistencies though as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can already think of several inconsistencies with him like revealing that the castle was always in the planetarium the whole time. That's bullshit and it's just inconsistent.
You mentioned before
entirely
as well, like him saying, I'm the prince, he's dead,
Yeah.
he's not. Yeah.
fucking
It could be
thing,
done.
don't-
Yeah, it could be done way better. I'd give it a 8 out of 10.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good review. I think I would give it a 9 because I'm not dissing you guys, but I think just mine is only slightly higher because I feel like I understood it better. That doesn't mean that I did.
Yeah,
For sure.
no, you did.
yeah.
But that's your role in this trio. You're our
yeah.
senpai. You're meant to understand it better.
I came into this podcast with like vague ideas as to what's going on, but yeah, your explanation helps
Okay, cool.
solidify a lot of that.
But it's not a 10 because I do agree with Robert. There are some things that could have been done better, and
If I had watched this show without discussion,
yeah.
I would have been left totally fucking confused.
Yeah.
And like, what the fuck am I watching?
Because that's the thing about narratives, right? Like, if somebody watches it, so that is a failure of the show. If somebody can watch it and not come away with anything, that is a failure on the writer's part, 100%.
Yeah.
So, it's not perfect, but I had a very, very, very good time with it. And, I mean, where are we going to go next? A Weeb in review? A Weeb in review is the segment. That was a tiring conversation.
Yeah.
But a Weeb in review is the segment where we talk about anything else: anime, weeb, manga, video game, Japanese related stuff we did in the week. Everybody's very busy with exams and the like and the life, but me, I am here always, because I don't think too hard about it.
You're our anchor in a storm. That's not the expression. Something like that. You're the pot in a storm. No.
I'm really bad at coming up with idioms as well. My first thing was
who holds us together while we're busy with other shit, and we can come back to you.
My mind always goes to alliteration, even when it's not helpful. So when you were trying to come up with an idiom, I thought Weeb in a windmill.
Yeah, you're a Weeb in a windmill. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, right?
It's a Weeb in a windmill.
Yeah. I this week have played a little bit of Danganronpa. I've mentioned it in passing, I think on a UTK, but for those of you who aren't familiar with what Danganronpa is, it is a visual novel game, and the premise of it is that there's this special high school. Only the best of the best of the best in the country get to go to this special high school, whose name I've just completely fucking forgotten because it's like never really just don't talk about the name of the school. Like, we're here, that's it. Never say where we are again. So you have like the ultimate pop star. She's like 14 and a pop star in a pop idol group, so she gets to go to the school. A fashionista who's just like, I'm a model, check me out. The ultimate baseball star, the ultimate clairvoyant, that's right, he's accurate. The ultimate gambler, that's right, she can gamble. The ultimate martial artist.
Wait, why is she she's just lucky, or she's clever? What sort of gambling? Like poker?
Yeah,
like,
gambling.
Skill, or
gambling.
Like roulette that's just...
Listen, I haven't had much of a chance to have a conversation with her, but when I do, I'll ask her exactly that.
All right.
The ultimate martial artist, the ultimate programmer, the ultimate fan fiction writer, the ultimate literature writer. Don't know. I guess they're separate, like fan fiction's not literature.
Yeah.
Anyways, so they will get brought together to the school. You play as main character son. I've forgotten his name. He's a wet blanket, so I'm pretending that they're talking to me and not this wet blanket. Who is the ultimate lucky student. You are the whole thing where they're like, I'm perfectly average. I only like whatever's popular at the time. I have literally the most average scores all across the board. I'm an average at fitness, and I'll probably die at an average age. What's up? But you get to go to the school because you won a lottery that lets you go to the school. So you're the ultimate lucky student. You have the ultimate luck because you get to go to the school. You get to the school, and are immediately knocked unconscious. What the fuck?
Probably by the gambler.
Probably.
Like, fuck you with your luck.
When you wake up, there's a pamphlet sitting on the desk that's like crudely drawn with crayons that's like, welcome to the school. All of the windows are covered with a foot thick iron sheet and welded shut. You walk out, and then you find a room filled with all the other students who all say that the exact same thing happened to them. And then a little bear who's half white and half black, like straight down the middle, is like, my name's Monokuma, and welcome to school, bitches. He lets you know that you're all stuck in the school. There is literally no way in and no way out, and you're going to have to live together and learn to get along. The only way of graduating from this school is by killing another person.
Wow.
And then he just goes, fuck you, and bounces, leaves. You all get given a handbook with like a bunch of rules and stuff, and then the gameplay is a visual novel, so you're just like walking around the school and reading text and talking to people. Everybody's pretty much panicking. Everybody's like, one of you motherfuckers... Oh, because one of the guys is the ultimate biker gang leader. He's so badass that he's the de facto leader of every gang in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah, so
badass.
Pretty badass. There's the ultimate moral compass, who's like always been the student council president ever since kindergarten, and he's just like, these are the rules.
Right.
Anyways, needless to say, a murder happens.
Yeah.
You have to, and you get framed for the first murder. I don't think that that's too much of a spoiler.
That would be a good thing, because then you'd graduate.
No.
Oh.
A new rule appears in the book after the murder has happened, and it says whoever commits the murder becomes blackened, and they will be punished if they're caught. So you go, oh fuck, Monokuma, and he comes out, because there's cameras everywhere, so he's always watching everything. There's cameras in the rooms, toilets, you name it. And he's like, yo, what's up? And they say, what the fuck is this extra bit to the rule? He's like, oh yeah, should have mentioned that key little detail. We are now entering the investigation mode of life. You have X amount of time to investigate the murder. If you can't figure out who did it, they get to graduate. they get to leave the school, but if you don't figure it out, you'll all be punished. And then one of the students runs up and says, "What the fuck are you talking about? And adding rules? This is fuck. This is unfair."
Grabbing the bear,
and the bear says, "You shouldn't have touched me. It's in the school rules." And then spikes come out of the ground and kill the person who grabbed the bear.
Right.
Oh.
So that's what's going to happen.
That's what's going to happen.
Punishment.
That's punishment. Punishment means death.
Okay.
So you have to try and prove that you didn't do it, because otherwise everybody will die except for the person who actually committed the murder.
Right.
And
so they all think it's you.
They have every reason to think it's you. I won't say why.
Okay.
So you have to go around talking to people, finding clues, gathering information, and then there's a court case, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What happens is people talk, and you have a gun with truth bullets, which is evidence that you found. And while they're talking, you like slow down time, so they're like, "Oh yeah, I heard that he was in the bathroom," and then you see the word bathrooms glowing, and you get to shoot it with a bullet, and like, that person saw me, and I wasn't in the bathroom. And they're like, oh no, that's right, he wasn't in the bathroom, I saw him earlier than that. And then that's how the case progresses, and it's like around, everybody's like in a circle facing each other, so that you can see when people are getting stressed out, and you all have to confront each other. It's really tense, because I didn't know I thought I knew who had done it like twice, and then as the clues were coming out, other people have been doing investigations as well, and they bring out clues, and I was like, oh fuck, red herrings, who did it? Oh my god.
Wow. How many are there? How many NPCs?
There are 15 including you, 15 students, although there's a 16th seat in the courtroom, so I reckon there's going to be another person that gets added in.
Wait, it wasn't the guy who died?
No.
Right.
They, a picture frame with the people who died are in their seat with a big red X on their face, and Monokuma's using it to taunt you.
Yeah.
He's like, somebody asks, "Why the fuck?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, I just wouldn't want them to miss out on all the school activities." Yeah. He's a megalomaniacal maniac.
Yes.
Is he like a full-size bear or like a teddy bear?
No, he's like a teddy bear, but there's a point earlier before you've been given the handbook where the ultimate biker gang boy, I forget what he's called, I think ultimate delinquent, he picks up the bear and goes, "What the fuck, you can't fuck," he's swearing, he doesn't say can't, but he says, "Fuck you, bitch." And then Monokuma just like turns off and then starts beeping, and somebody's like, "Throw it," and he throws it and it explodes, and then another bear pops up and goes,
Right.
"Read the rule." Yeah, that's your one warning.
Yeah.
Don't touch me.
Nice.
Cool.
I'm expensive to make.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole thing is kind of ridiculous. You're living in this school/hotel where everybody has their own room, and like all the facilities you could ever need would possibly be there. All the food is stocked. It's a very thrilling thing to have to solve a murder that you've been framed for. I had so much fun with it. Yeah. I'm really not that far in though. Yeah. Also, there's dating mechanics.
Nice.
So now that I've been through the whole first whatever and tutorials, let's pick one of the ladies, because I mean, no gays, because it's Japan. Yeah. And I'm playing as a boy. But you know, dating mechanics are fun.
Do you get to choose who you play as?
No, you always play as the ultimate lucky, and then you do. He's the most fucking.
But I mean, like gender, you get to choose your.
No. You always play as the boy, and his name is something with blanket. Cool. He's so stupid. I hate playing as a character who's dumber than me. He's like, "Oh, but if that's the case, then." What does that mean? It's like, come on, dude.
It's like faster.
It's like 1+1 at this stage. The first case is really easy because they're easing you into. I have it set to medium level difficulty. There's difficulty settings for it as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
That can be interesting to.
I don't know if you know, but do they have can you replay it? Is it a different murder each time? Is it?
No, I think it's scripted.
Yeah.
The only reason that you would want to replay it is so when you interact with people before the murder happens, before the school enters investigation mode, you have an unknown amount of free time until, I guess, the next murder happens. Mm-hmm. But the day gets broken into 2 parts, and talking with somebody takes up a part of the day until it enters the nighttime, and everybody, this isn't a spoiler, everybody's just agreed to not leave their rooms at night to lower suspicion. Like, we're not going to... If everybody agrees to just not go out of your room at night, we'll all feel a lot better. But, of course, that rule gets broken.
Yeah.
So you have a limited amount of actions that you can do before the first murder happens, or before any murder happens. Okay. So the replay value would come into getting to talk to different people. Yeah. I know that I've already missed some stuff because some of the characters that I wanted to talk to are now dead.
Yeah.
So there's replay value in that. You could also up the difficulty of the mystery.
Yeah.
There's two difficulties, because there's the action difficulty of the actual court case where you have to shoot their words and do like a rhythm game when you're arguing with them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's one part where they're like, the one person's refusing to listen to you, and you have to do like a time-based like dun, 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 to counter their argument, which is nothing, but
just a little mechanic.
Yeah. There are so many mechanics, and the characters are all uniquely written enough to make them feel interesting. At the moment, they kind of seem stereotyped, but having a lot of fun with it. I'm going to come back. I don't know how I'm going to talk about it without spoilers. Because even if I say who I start dating, that means that they don't die in the first death. So maybe I won't talk about it again. But if you're looking for it's pretty relaxing to play through up until somebody dies. You know, you just like... It's good to play with somebody because then you're both speculating,
right?
You know, and arguing with each other as to who you think the murderer is and why.
Right.
Yeah. Nice.
It's a good game anyway.
How many hours do you reckon it would give you?
I think it might be a 30 to 40 hour game,
Right.
but I could be wrong. I mean, I went through, when I first got to the school and got to explore for the first time, I went through every single room and clicked on everything and got some stuff. Like, I was being very thorough, and I'm trying to talk to everybody as well. Even, like, there's a scene where you're all waiting to go to the courtroom, and you have to go up an elevator, and you get to talk to everybody. Everybody only gives you one line of dialogue, but it's still, like, interesting characterization.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I mean? So, it's a good game.
Cool.
Would recommend it. There are 3 games. Danganronpa. Trigger Happy Havoc is the subtitle.
Right.
Ultimate Despair.
That's another subtitle.
I think maybe 2 is Ultimate Despair, because Monokuma's whole thing is that he's doing this to make you feel despair.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's what I did this week, among a few other little things that aren't worth talking about, but you know what? It's time to move into fake news. Fake Views is the segment where I read some anime that is real and some anime that is fake. And then Rob and Curtis have to guess. You can too at home. And then I get to laugh at whoever's wrong because I know more than some people. Play along or don't. Also, I mean, you get to laugh at me if I fuck up and they guess everything.
Really
that hasn't happened yet, I don't think. No.
We did guess when you used our D&D campaign.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, you haven't gone 3 for 3 or however many I've done.
No.
You weren't both in agreement ever.
Right, yeah.
First, anime. The main character's favourite sport is soccer, but her high school doesn't have a team. After gathering together a group of misfits, they must prove their worth or lose their funding to the school's favourite sport, baseball. With the help of her coach, a talking hair clip, they must win the entire season.
Hi there. Looks like you're trying to put together a soccer team. Do you want some help?
No, he's like a ghost inside the hair clip. He's not.
Right. He's not Clippy.
I feel like this isn't an anime, but something else that you've explained to me in the past.
No collusion, Robert. Curtis.
I think I'm going to say it is an anime.
And that I've explained it to you in the past.
Possibly, yeah.
It's not an anime.
Oh.
And I forgot that I had mentioned it to Curtis in the past. It's based on... This guy did like an art project for himself. And he was like, I'm just going to make up an anime. And he made it up. It's called Corner Kick. It doesn't exist. Except in my mind. I would watch that. Alright, next. Real or fake anime. One day, after falling asleep in the school library while studying, the main character is awoken by a historical figure. Each episode, a new historical figure complicates their life but teaches them a valuable lesson. Because they're studying for their history, because they're so bad at it. And the first one is, of course, Oda Nobunaga.
Who? What?
Oda Nobunaga is an important Japanese historical figure.
Right.
I'm
going to say it is real.
I'm going to say fake, but it would be cool.
It's fake. It might be.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm losing 2-0 now. That's not good.
I made that one up today.
You made it up?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I thought... We'll get into why I made it up later.
After this one.
After
the reasons for why he made up the next one.
After being killed by a passing robber, the main character, an older man, finds himself reincarnated in another world, but as a slime.
As a slime.
Like the weakest enemy in a video game.
Yeah.
Fuck. I'm so nervous now because I could go out completely, out for a duck.
Do you want me to add a little bit more?
Yes.
There he begins his new slime-like life in another world.
That's what we just he wakes up in another world as a slime,
and
he then lives as a slime in another world.
He increases the number of minions that he has.
As a slime.
And he was an old man.
Yeah, he was
Fake.
He was old.
Fake.
I feel like it's like on that obscurity point where I'm gonna go real.
Oh, one of us.
It is real.
Oh.
That time...
No! I haven't lost in so many weeks.
That time I got reincarnated as a slime. It is
Lord.
currently airing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Very, very recent.
That time.
Yeah. I'm interested in it. It looks funny.
Yes.
I think that this is going to be the last fake view segment, guys.
What? No, you can't do that to me. I've got to get my title back. You just heard me handing over the belt to Curtis.
It's going to end with the... It's just... It is so hard. Because a lot of the time I'm like, oh, wouldn't this be like a funny idea for an anime? And it's not the same as, but it's so similar to something else that exists.
Maybe I'll take it over and test your knowledge on anime.
If you want to do that, you know what? Here's the fucking pamphlets. Here's the rule books.
Oh wow, there's some good animes in here.
I'm totally happy for you to take it over. So next week, Robert will be doing fake views. I find it just too hard. I get so stressed out. But I hope that next week we get it just as good, and then maybe I can take the belt from Curtis. But we'll move right on into recommendations. So every single goddamn week I recommend an anime. This is like the 20-somethingth anime. So we're past 10% of all the animes that I've seen.
But it's still...
I'm running out.
Yeah, because you can't recommend them all. They're not all
No,
great.
they're not all good. They're definitely not all good. But for now, I want to recommend to everybody listening Paranoia Agent. Paranoia Agent is about... It's a psychological thriller, and it's about... there's this urban legend that's been going around recently about a boy on rollerblades with a golden baseball bat who goes around cracking people's heads in. Weird little urban legend, right?
Okay.
One day, the main character of the first episode is really stressed out and they just don't know how they can cope anymore, and then Golden Boy comes and hits them on the head. And episode to episode follows people hearing about the urban legend and then getting hit by Golden Boy.
Wait, so the main character of the first episode is...
Not dead, hospitalized.
Right. But then each episode follows somebody new?
Somebody new as they
lead up to getting cracked.
Cracked in the head by Golden Boy.
Ooh, cool.
It takes a very sharp turn at about the third way mark, like the 3/4 mark. It is not about what you think it is about. It is very good. It's really hard to recommend without spoiling.
I can hear the gears whirring. He's going, how am I going to get there?
Is it a thriller?
It is a thriller.
Yeah.
It's not... I don't find it that scary. The Golden Bat Boy, or I think they call him Batto or Bat Boy. That can't be right, because that's like Batman. Golden Bat starts appearing in places that aren't outside. Like, one person is an animator and they're stressed out, they're working crunch because they got to get this fucking thing out and this new character model done, and then they hear like a kid laughing and rollerblades zooming down the hallway.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure one person gets clipped in their car, like they're driving and then the kid's in the back seat and conks them on the head in their car. So the kid takes, like, the more the urban legend spreads, the more powerful the Golden Bat Kid becomes.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. It
So-
sounds like I'm starting to think, like, what could it be about? I'm thinking, like, it's like a metaphor for if you're stressed out and anxious and then you have a stroke or something,
It's
or
not
a heart
as-
attack because of it.
it's not as metaphorical as it's definitely more approachable than Revolutionary Girl Utena.
Well,
yeah. Well, it's not that hard, is it? Another thing that's really good about it is a lot of the animation is really, really solid. They do these, surreal, I won't say dream sequences, but they do these surreal sequences that are just very impressive. And I think that it does a good blend of, psychological thriller while telling an engaging episodic story and having a satisfying payoff at the end that ties everybody together.
Okay.
It's worth your time. It's not that long. It's like 13 episodes, so not a huge investment. Definitely check it out.
Moist.
That was Paranoid Agent, and this is the wrap-up. We're here at the end of Utena. Now it is time to move on. We're gonna graduate, and I can feel your hate because we didn't have a common consensus on Utena.
It's good.
That one wasn't funny, but it was apt.
It was appropriate. We wrapped up pretty well. You're getting better at your raps.
Is that better though? What if I just stayed in my rap-alescence and just because then it's always funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, I hope that A, you're still listening, and that B, you've enjoyed this journey with us. It's been a tumultuous one, but I think that we've all gained a little bit of something from this show. If people want to give us feedback, Curtis, where could they do that?
Reddit, Twitter, Facebook.
YouTube. Yeah, there we go.
Or you could email us directly at KYFCaYAC at gmail.com. That's KYFCaYAC at gmail.com. Or you could tell a friend about us as well. That would help us out.
Leave a recommendation or a review. Like a like review.
Yeah, no.
That one doesn't work. A recommendation works.
Recommendation, I like that one.
Yeah, we're still growing. We're still going at it. Going to be improving our quality. Next week...
Maybe I'm not a podcaster. Maybe I wanted to be a podcaster.
Is this you leaving?
This is
just me just being Ocean.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I needed to feel like I was a podcaster.
Yeah.
But now I can realise...
Well,
I can move on.
My hands on both of their knees, and I can safely say that we're not podcasters.
Right.
We're just friends who podcast.
We're just friends who have a conversation and then record it, and then we throw it up for anybody to listen to. The production value is minimal, but we'll try and maybe get it up there. Anyways,
Give us feedback on the production value.
Give us feedback. What do you did you hate my little sound bit from last episode? I'm not gonna know unless you tell me. We're going to be taking a break from series just for 1 week. Next week we are going to be watching Redline. After we watch the movie, we're still undecided onto what we're going to move on to. We want to do a 12 episode run up until Christmas. The two shows that we're looking at moving into at the moment are Houseki no Kuni. It looks very good. It's a CG anime that's done well. Looks deep. Not as deep as Utena, but it looks like it's got a lot for us to chew on and get our teeth into. The other one that we're looking at is Keijo with 4 exclamation marks. It is an ecchi sports anime about a sport called Keijo. Funny that. Where contestants have to stand on a platform in a pool, and you have to. The goal is to knock the other person off, but you're only allowed to use your boobs, your hips, or your butt. I've never seen a sports anime, and so I thought maybe that would be a good way of easing us into it, because none of us are sports boys, and maybe it would be good. Maybe holy shit, it's a hidden gem that everybody writes off because it sounds just so stupid. Those are the two that we're thinking of at the moment. We're undecided. We could even go with a third. If you have a recommendation for what you would like us to move into for season 4, let us know. If we like it, we might as well do it. But until next week, I have been your student council president, Joel.
I was your student council Nanami, Robert.
I was your student council jury, Curtis.